Hello everyone, welcome to the next session on ABAP on HANA. In the last session of ABAP on HANA, we saw how to create CDS views or data services and then consume some of the CDS or data services in a real-time Fiori application. We also saw how to configure our HANA Cloud integration with our S4HANA instance or an ABAP on HANA instance and expose the OData over SAP Web IDE so that Web IDE can consume this OData via destination. We have done a two-way handshake with the help of SAP Cloud Connector between on-premise and internet system. Then we also discussed about advanced feature of CDS view, which is called CDS table function. We saw an example for the same in the system. And then towards the end of the class, I was explaining about the authorization concept of CDS. So that is what we were looking at. And we were unable to complete it because of shutdown of our server. Now we will discuss about that concept. But before that, uh, today's topic for discussion will be ALV with IDA framework. So with ABAP on HANA, it is possible to do a lot of code push down to the database. In conjunction to the same pattern, what SAP have also done is they have improved the ALV. So ALV, as we all know, ALV stands for ABAP List Viewer. This has been one of the most popular way to display the data in table-like format to the business user, so the user can look at the data and analyze that. So that is what we typically have it in any SAP system as a business application in ALV, which displays all the data to the users. Correct? So what do we typically do with the ALV? We write typically the select query, and using the select query, we will pull all the data into an internal table. And then finally, after pulling all the data to the internal table, we will be displaying this particular data in the list of table. So how can we typically use an ALV now with CDS view, and what is the advantage of this improved ALV using IDA framework? Okay, so IDA stands for integrated data access. And how does IDA work? So typically what you do in an ALV based program which you write, so you have your database where all the data resides. On top you have your application layer, and then finally you have your presentation layer, which is nothing but your SAP GUI, where the ALV gets displayed to the user. Now whenever you want to display an ALV, you have to write a program in SAP application layer, using SAP GUI, and that runs in SAP application layer, which hits the database and pulls all the records from the database table, or whatever select query you've written. Based on that, it pulls all the records, and then those records will be loaded in your application layer, and finally those records you will do an additional filtering within the application layer by applying your calculation logic. Correct? So this is what you typically do. You apply your calculation logic and do all the data filtering based on your requirement uh, into the application layer itself, and then final set of data is what you display to the business user. So you will write a lot of application programming code in your application layer, which would lead to performance issues. So here in this case, typical ELV example, you select always the largest data set, and then you do lot of calculation in the application layer and to display the data to the business user. Now this definitely is not the right way or not a good way for performance sensitive applications. So as we learned already the guidelines of SAP ABAP on HANA, that if you want to improve the performance, you have to minimize the number of data transfer, number of data calls. Another is amount of data transfer, as well as number of requests which you are sending to database. And this is what something can automatically be achieved using this improved IDA framework. So IDA stands for integrated data access. It's a framework provided by SAP, which is used by SAP ALV, improved ALV with NetWeaver 7.4. And this would lead to do a code push down into database, and this would make sure that all the data which you truly want to be displayed to the business user will only be fetched from the database. Another advantage is paging. So paging will also be achieved using IDA framework. So suppose you are writing a complex query which would lead to read 500 records from the database table. So what happens by now in a typical ALV example, all 500 records will be read and displayed to the business user. Now, which means you have by default downloaded or fetched all the records from database to application. But if you want to follow the guidelines, you would probably want to do fetch only, let's say, 20 records initially and display it to the user. And then next, when user does a further scroll in the ELV, you load the next 20 records. Correct? So that is what something you would typically like to do it in the real time world. So you don't fetch all the records in one shot. Instead, you will fetch them chunk by chunk based on the need. And also you don't fetch do a select star. Typically you would only need the columns which ALV displays to be fetched on the from the database. So typically in an ABAP program, we do a select star, we read all the records, and then we have a field catalog created in application layer for the ALV, which then displays you the particular columns. But here with IDA, these things can be simplified. So one advantage is only selected columns will be fetched from DB. Second advantage is it will also implement implicit paging. Third advantage, which is the major advantage, is automatic query. So you don't have to write any select statement at all when you are using uh, the IDA framework. Okay, all of that will be done automatically. So your IDA framework prepares the query, sends it to the database, pulls the data and displays it in the ALV. You just have to provide the data source name to the IDA framework. And good news is this data source could be a CDS view also. And then with that way you will truly do a code push down, and using the IDA framework it also does all the performance improvement, including pagination, or be fetching only the limited number of record, or writing the or firing the database call whenever it's needed, not unnecessarily, and also minimizing the amount of data transfer from the database to the application layer. So in this case of IDA, now the architecture remains same, but what happens is it only transfer the records which you are planning to send it to presentation layer. So here you see what earlier was happening. You were actually selecting something called big X, and on the presentation you were displaying small x. Okay, so in order to display small x to the presentation to the user, you were uploading or you were fetching big X. But now what will happen is, since you want to display a small x, you will only fetch small x from the database rather than fetching big X and doing pre-processing in application. You would only fetch small x because you have HANA DB, which can do all the code push down or code to data paradigm. So here your data set is small, and it is based on request, based on how much data you truly want or how much data you're currently capable of displaying. Only those many records will be fetched from the database. So that's the beauty of integrated data access with ALV. So we will look at in today's class how to use IDA framework to prepare an ALV on CDS view which we had created. So by now I think our server is now once again active. Our cal server is ready, so we can go ahead and continue our discussion on the authorization, which I had started yesterday. So let me quickly go to cal and use our IP address to add it on our Eclipse. So I create a new ABAP project and quickly add it. Maybe I will just also add it over here, the IP address in my SAP GUI, so that I'll be able to access the same over here. So let's come here, ABAP project, choose the system, next, and provide my credentials to connect to my ABAP on HANA system from my ABAP development tools. And now we will just quickly look at once again the CDS view which we were looking at yesterday for business partner data. So this was a CDS view which I created already to display the business partner data. And you would see that it's reading the country information from the address association. Okay, now if I just execute this, you would see currently any user who comes and runs CDS view has access to read data from business partners all across different countries. So my company says that based on controlled authorizations, I would like to control the business partner access to different consultants or different clerks working in my company. So if I'm working with US country, I should only be able to see, or if I've given the role for looking at the US business partner, then only I'll be able to see business partner, and that too only for US country. I will not be allowed to look at the data for other country business partners. Okay, so that was the need. And for that reason, we had also created a simple access control. And access control here we have mentioned that grant select on the CDS view where country field aspect PFCG role, and we had created a PFCG role in SAP system. Let me just quickly show that once again to you, a PFCG role in the system. So actually guys, this should not be the PFCG role, this should be the authority object name. Okay, here we should not put the PFCG role name. Let me just show you that we have to put authority object name, and that's how we typically check authorizations in SAP ABAP. We write authority hyphen check statement and put the authority check object name. And then we create a role including that authority object to be assigned to the business users. So I will quickly go to the PFCG role. In fact, I don't need to go to PFCG role to demonstrate. I can directly go to SU21 to show you the authorization object which we created. So SU21, and I'll show you the authorization object which we had created yesterday in an authorization class. ZBUP was my class, and ZBUP underscore CTRY is an authorization object which I created. And this authorization object, I have two fields, country and activity. Okay, so if I use this authorization object, and I will come here and put this authorization object over here, and then country field and activity 03. Now another thing which I missed was in yesterday's class a semicolon at the end. That's why it was not allowing me to activate, and then also a parenthesis before the column name. Okay, over here. So that was the mistake which I was doing yesterday's class, and here this should be the authorization object, not your PFCG role. Okay, PFCG role will be created to grant the authorizations to the business users, which we will see it in today's class now. So I save this. Now before I activate, let me quickly show you running the CDS view, and already we executed, and you see right now I have access to look at all the business partner of all the countries. Now if I go back and just activate my access control, okay, I'm activating my access control for the CDS view, which is now saying that this CDS view access should only be granted to the people who has a particular authorization object assigned to a country and activity 03. Okay, this rule got activated now, and that's called DCL, data control language. If you remember, I taught you in the previous chapter the categories of SQL statements. We looked at DDL, DML, DCL, DQL. So this is DCL, and as you remember, we learned about CDS view definition. CDS is an extension to SQL, and it allows you to code DDL, DCL, and DQL. So this is an example of DCL under CDS. Okay, core data service option with DCL. So let's go back and reactivate once again our Bupa view. And just for information guys, I did not taught you how I created this view, but you can quickly look at that it is having an association with business partner and business partner address table. And you see the association name is underscore address. Yesterday we saw how to what is the naming convention in S4 for creating association, and then it's selecting one GUID address GUID from the system, which is a projection, and then associated field dot column name which we are selecting. Yeah, so that's typically the CDS view which I created. Now I will just quickly try to do a data preview one more time on this. Now your authorization is active, your DCL is active for CDS. So the moment I now try to run it, boom, you see I can't access any data now. Yeah, I can't access. So that's what happens the moment you activate your authorization or DCL on a CDS. Okay, and that's very important aspect as far as security of your data is concerned in a real-time project. Okay, I will come to these annotations what you're seeing here. you will see this annotation, you will see this annotation. So right now I did not talk about these annotations to you, so don't worry, we will look at these advanced annotations in our today's class itself if time permits. This is what I was telling about VDM, virtual data model in S4 HANA. So we will look at these annotation, what do they do. Okay, so don't worry about these annotations right now, we will talk about them. Okay, now let's execute. So we executed and we saw no data. Now let's suppose you have imposed this authorization, you have imposed the DCL. How will you now control people to access now the data? So what will you do as a consultant now, a ABAP on HANA consultant, to give authorization? So typically this is the job of basis guy. Now your job as a developer ends here. You created an authority object in SU21 under a authorization class with an authority field as country and activity into it. That's it. That's your job. Now as a basis guy, what do they do to allow users to access the data from the CDS? So as a basis, now suppose I'm in the shoe of a basis guy, I will just quickly remember this authorization object name, which of course as a developer you have to tell to the basis guy. Basis guy now go and create an authorization in the system by creating first of all a role. So now I am creating a role, Z Bupa country, let's say US, and say create this role. So I'm creating a new role. The moment this role is granted to business users, they will be able to access America's business partners. Okay, so America business partner role. Okay, and then we go to authorization, say yes. Now typically this activity is done in customizing client. Remember guys, very important, if you're working in a real-time S4 HANA project, in your S4 HANA on-premise system you will see two clients, one is development client and one is customizing client. All the role related stuff are done in customizing client, just like a launchpad related stuff what you do is in the customizing client. Similarly your role related stuff you do it in customizing client, and that's a job of a basis guy. You as a developer would not probably do this. Okay, now I just say change authorization data. So basically now I'm creating a role to give access to people who can access the data from CDS view based on this authorization object. So I say manually include authorization object, which is this one, whichever was the authorization object which I created earlier and included in DCL. And now I can maintain the value as a basis guy. So I'm creating it for US people. So I will say activity should be 03, and then people can only access customers or business partner data from US country. So I put the country here. You can of course maintain multiple country values. That's your choice. If you want to create a role, let's say for uh, all the Americas, Canadas, and Mexico people, a single role, then of course you can choose those countries, multiple countries in a single role. Click on save, and I say okay, good, we are good. This role has been now created successfully. So generate the profile. You see the profile got created, and now we can assign this role to a user. So let me assign this to developer user, which I'm using currently, and I just save this. Also click on user comparison and click on compare, complete comparison. That's it. You will see this icon turn green, which means now this role is assigned to developer user. Let's see the magic in the system. Now I come back to my ADT and I will re-execute a data preview on the CDS view. Anybody, what do you guess what will happen the moment I logged in already as a developer user? What do you think what will happen when I execute the CDS view? Will I be able to see all the business partner data from my BPA table, or will I only be able to see business partner data for country US? Only for country US. Let's see now, execute it. And since I've been given a role to look at US country data, voila, you see it's only displaying me business partner for US country. Now, an interesting certification or interview question. Let's imagine you have an underlying Bupa view, a business partner view. Okay, so you have a business partner CDS. Okay, and this CDS you have an access control attached to it which checks for country. Now this country is attached to a authorization object, and now this authorization object is included in a business role, okay, in a technical PFCG role. Fine, and this role is assigned to a business user or maybe set of users. Okay, these users have data. Now this CDS view is now being used by another CDS view. Okay, view on view concept. You remember that we can use now the CDS view in a join with another CDS view, and let's say it's joining with a fact table called sales order data with this CDS for Bupa. Okay, and now there is no access control at the sales order level. Now what will happen? I will ask this question to all of you. Let's see. Now what will happen when user, this particular guy, tries to access sales order data? Will I be able to see sales order data of all the countries business partner, or will I only be able to see sales order data of only US country business partners? Anyone? What is your answer? Correct answer. It will only join the records from business partner which belongs to US country, because these users have authorizations to only see business partner from US. So ultimately this join would also include automatically this condition from your CDS DCL to consider the business partner sales orders who belongs to US country. Very important certification or interview question. When there is a join on a CDS view with a fact table and the main and a dimension CDS, this is a dimension table, basically dimension view, because it's done on a business partner master data. And when your dimension having a DCL, what is this join evaluated? Will this join consider this particular DCL or not? Answer is yes, it will consider the DCL. It will only join the records based on join condition, plus also include automatically another SQL statement, another where condition considering this country field, because the DCL is applied at the bottom, at the base of your data, and that should be considered to also fetch the sales orders. So sometimes if there is a DCL at the dimension level, that may cause a confusion for you when you look at the data. Okay, so suppose you are working in a company and you look at sales data, you see a result. At the same time your colleague is working and he will look at the same view. Okay, let's say there are other set of view users and they are also querying the same sales view. They both will see different set of data. Reason? Because these set of users has authorization to look at sales data of US country, and let's say these people will have authorization to look at data of business partner for Indian country only. So what will happen? This join gets evaluated, of course, yes, but also considers the business partner from underlying CDS DCL, which would then in turn shows you different data. And that's what happens in real time also. You will see next sitting next to you, your colleague will see different sales data, you will see different sales data in CDS. Okay, so don't confuse, that could be because of authorization or DCL concept in CDS. Very important concept. You need to go back and check if there is a DCL at underlying dimension level which is causing this differentiation. This could be a ticket, this could be a bug understood as a bug by business users. They may come back to you and say, hey, the data is different from me to another colleague. In that case, you have to go and check, is there any DCL on your CDS? And if yes, then you have to find out, investigate, and tell them it is because there's a DCL and you don't have the rights to probably look at this data. Hope that that's clear to everybody, the concept of DCL in case of CDS view. Okay, great. Let's move on. So maybe if I want also people to look at the data for a different country, it's pretty simple for basis guy. Just go and adopt this profile. So maybe I just go for change mode and just add another country as part of this pretty easily. So go for edit and let's include another country. Let's say DE. Hopefully it is a country. Yes, save this and regenerate the profile, and we are done. And now you would just query your CDS one more time, and just you will also see the data of business partner from Germany as well. You see, it's also pulled up Germany records. There's a question from Silpa. Can I find out where all the DCL on a CDS? I hope so. Then let's try this. So I can go to a CDS and do a where used over here in ABAP on Eclipse. So you see there's a where used option. I'm not sure it's not enabled. Not sure why it's not enabled. But there has to be a way to find the DCL corresponding to a CDS view. Maybe I need to cross check that, Shilpa. I never tried that. Maybe we can just quickly do a quick Google about that. Get DCL of all of your CDS view. That should be pretty simple option. So view row level authorization. So in fact, you can see here rows, number of rows are restricted based on the country in this case. So at row level authorization concept can be implemented with the DCL. So let's look at, is there any where used for DCL? So access control DCL, view row level authorization with DCL. Okay, now not sure where can we do a where used. There has to be some way specifying all the possible DCL which are applied on a particular CDS view. There has to be a way. I'm not able to get it. Maybe I will find it out by next session, or I will inform you over the email what's the next way. Okay, what is the way to do that? I never tried that out. Hopefully there has to be a way. Okay, but I see the where used button is inactive, so right now I will not be able to find. Let me also just right click and try. Yeah, I think we can do get where used on right click on the CDS view, and let's see, we should be definitely able to get this information. Now at the bottom you see it's searching where all the CDS view is being used. So I just right clicked on the CDS view. Unfortunately this button, I don't know why it was not enabled at the toolbar level, but now I right clicked and I choose the option called get where used list. Okay, this is what I done, and now you see it's searching, and hopefully it should get me now the list of DCL which are consuming this CDS view, because my CDS view is being used in here. It's not. Okay, it's not. So this were used probably not giving us the right results as what we are expecting. So maybe I need to check that out. What is the way? There must be some database table or some relationship which will help me to find out that this CDS view is used in this particular DCL. Okay, let's move on now. So what we will do next is we will try to consume CDS into an ALV using integrated data access in a smart way. So remember the conventional ALV where we used to first build the catalog, we used to call set table for first display, we used to create an CL underscore CFW underscore ALV underscore grid class object, set table for first display method, load all the catalogs, pass the data table, prepare our internal table with all data, and then pump into the ALV. This is what we used to do in conventional ABAP program to build an ALV. But now it's pretty easy with the help of this integrated data access ALV. And there's just a nice set of APIs which IDA framework provides us. With the help of that, we can prepare an ALV and display the data to the user. Let's do that. So I'm going to write an ABAP program displaying my sales data. So maybe I will go back to our view which we had created for sales order item consumption view. So maybe just check. Let me check. Which is the suitable view here for our purpose. So yeah, this could be a good candidate. Now you see here we have company name, we have product information, currency code, gross amount, net amount, tax amount. All these fields have been selected from our database table, but I am interested more into the one which we created yesterday. So let me just check the one which we created yesterday. So I guess this one. Yes, yes, this one looks nice. So I can see here this one I had selected the buyer guide, I had selected the sales order key, and then I had also selected the company name, and then sales amount, the invoice amount, and the currency code, and the business partner association also been exposed, and invoice association has been exposed out. So this is the one which we will now use to consume it in our integrated data access with ALV. So let's go ahead and create a new ABAP program and consume this in IDA ALV. So That's a new feature with SAP NetWeaver 7.4 onwards. With ABAP on HANA, it's possible to do selection of data using integrated data access, which then also optimize the performance. So any ALV custom program you guys have it in your company, try to replace it with integrated data access framework with ALV. It will definitely give you some good performance improvement. So let's say Z consume CDS. So consume CDS using ALV IDA and say next. You can of course, okay, it's already there. I'll just create it with Z consume CDS1. Finish. I'm not giving any package name, neither a transport request. So typically you would give a productive package with a transport request. And now let's just first look quickly without writing too much of code. We can simply call this IDA framework to display the ALV table on the UI. So it's pretty simple. There is a ready-made class available in SAP, CLSALV underscore GUI underscore table underscore IDA, integrated data access using ALV. And that's a static method in this. And the static method name is create for CDS view. If you are just directly firing on a database table, just use create method. But since our plan is to use CDS view, we will say create for CDS view. Let's use this control space and press control space and press shift enter, and it generates the code for you. Shift enter is the shortcut. It's not enter. In ABAP SafeGUI, it's enter, control space and enter, but here it's control space and shift enter to generate the code. And then just simply pass your CDS entity name. So ZCO Bupa sales, and that's it. We are ready. And let's call a method of this return object, control space, and I say there are a lot of options which you can choose from, like display options. So we will see investigate these different options available to display the final result set, but right now we will just proceed with displaying the ALV data on the screen. Okay, so we just use this object and call full screen. I want to display the data on the full screen, and then just call display. That's it, easiest way, and there is nothing else is required. You can remove all the unwanted code. Of course you can do exception handling later point of time. I can just save this, and that's it. Integrated data access with ALV. Activate this program. It calls the CDS view. Whatever record CDS returns, it displays me all the columns by default. I will now show you different options available with this. With the help of that, you can restrict the number of columns. You can also add a custom button. You can disable, enable some features of the IDA ALV. We will look at all those options now in a minute. Let's at least look at the response now in an ALV table consuming the CDS view. So it's taking some time. First time it's compiling, so it's taking some time, and now you see all the data has been displayed over here. Beautiful. So let's come back to CDS view, and you just observe that here we had put different semantics. So for all the properties we had put different semantics. Now I want to, you see here in your ALV you don't see these labels. So how can you enable these labels for the amount field? So there has to be a possibility using annotation. So I hope so. So let me try that. So there is an annotation for let's say sales amount, and I will just put an annotation called at the rate of end user text dot label. This is an annotation, and I will say sales amount, and then again I will come down for invoice amount and put end user text label and just put invoice amount. Hopefully these annotations will work with IDA framework as well, because I have seen them working with Fury at least. So I activate this now with these annotations, again our CDS view, and let's quickly execute once again our report program to see the response. So I execute it, and let's see what happens. And you can see guys, with those two annotations in CDS, all the column labels have also been enabled automatically. That's the power of using annotations in CDS view. Hope you got some feel about what an annotation can typically do in CDS view. Now you see these two technical columns over here, which are basically node keys, and I don't want these columns to be displayed to the business user finally in my final output. So that's little technical information ultimately for your business user. So you can indeed adapt it. And you know the beauty of IDA framework, the moment you try to hide these columns, the database from the database itself, the IDA framework will not pull these columns because we don't want these columns to be displayed in the final output. So what IDA framework does, it won't even pull the data for these two columns from underlying HANA DB. That's the beauty of IDA framework. But in conventional ABAP, you got to pull all the data, and then you got to prepare your field catalog where you will put all the fields which you want to display the data, and then you will populate this internal table and field catalog table to display only the certain columns out of what you selected. Stop doing that. It hampers your performance. But with this it will not, because it will only choose or get the data for the columns which are truly required. Okay, there's a question here from Anshuman, and from where we get the available list of annotations present in ABAP CDS. There are a lot of resources on internet. If I simply do a Google CDS annotations, of course there is one best way, when I want to achieve something, what I typically do is I use code completion. So I come here and just put at the rate of, and you can see it shows me the code completion, but it's huge. Actually the library is big, and you see there are huge number of things over here in this library. Of course you cannot simply use all of them, and you may not be able to find all of them, but based on your need you got to do a guess. But yes, of course, on internet there is huge amount of um, resources and available about CDS. So you can just go to CDS annotations and you see CDS annotations, ABAP CDS annotations, keyword documentation, and this should be the best candidate. And now you can see all the available CDS annotations under this library. So syntax for annotations, and you see end user label. This was the one which we were using for at the CDS level. And you see there are different syntaxes, different code samples, names for annotations. So it's huge. This material, this ABAP keyword documentation would be an helpful resource for you to get go ahead with the CDS annotations. You will get the list of and syntax, of course, for all the annotations. So this is syntax, scope, evaluation of annotation, and SAP annotations. Okay. HANA CDS annotations are also same. Honestly speaking, I've never worked with HANA CDS at this point of time. I'm still learning about HANA Access coding, and right now I'm on Node.js chapter there. So after Node.js programming, I will move to HANA CDS, and was also the reason why I did not answer your question of creating a HANA CDS. Okay, because I believe that if I know something, then only I should answer it to you guys. If I don't know something, I should accept it, and then I should clearly tell you that where can you find the right resource to learn about it, but not give you some dictation about it. Because things which I am not confident or I don't know, I should clearly say no, I don't know. But yes, there are a lot of materials. You all have access to Google, and this is one of the best place to learn things. So you can just simply write HANA CDS versus ABAP CDS, and you will find hundreds of links. Okay, you see, CDS one concept, two flavors. You see, click on this and you will definitely get the list of these theories between ABAP CDS and HANA CDS. You see, okay. So this is the way I learn, guys, everything. Okay, this is the way I learn things. But I don't want to give you some gyan which I will simply read it from internet and give it to you until I understand, until I am confident about it. Okay, I don't want to distribute that gyan to anybody until I am confident about it, until I understand and I can explain in my style to you. Okay, that's what my honesty is about any topic. So until unless I am confident, I don't want to give it. But if you guys interested to do, definitely on internet you have resources about it. Okay, we have a BW standard extractor in traditional ECC. It is going to replace BW extractor with CDS view, which will be consumed in BW for full load and delta load extractors. Fine, no problem. you can go ahead and create CDS views. So what is basically CDS view does for you? CDS view will be one of the best way for you to consume the data by BW tools. Okay, I don't know anything about BW extractor, but yes, you now guys know that how to create a CDS view, how to write some annotations using CDS views, and how to do association in CDS view. And in next unit I will show you some complex annotations. So today we just saw one annotation, like how to give end user label. So of course this annotation is very helpful. In fact, even when you consuming this CDS view now on your BW system and use some BAX reporting or some kind of crystal reporting to display this data, this label will be very helpful for the business user, for the end user to look at the data. Okay, similar to this, you have this amount field, you have this currency code, all these things. Similarly, we'll see some more annotations in next class, where we'll see how to identify a field as a measure and how to mark a field as an attribute. So these kind of annotations, virtual data model with S4, and there are object model level annotations. We will look at some of those annotations which are there. But yet again, uh, nobody, or I don't think so that anybody can explain you all the CDS annotations in the training. It depends on the requirement. Now you guys know what is CDS, what is annotations, what is association, how does it work, how the projection works, how a view on view works, how extension works, how authorization concept works. So you can explore on Google. You, if you look at now a blog, a study material, you will start understanding it now, right? So I cannot give you a thumb rule. Okay, in BW, if you're doing, use these annotations. There's no thumb rule, there is no golden rule. But yes, if you ask me a specific question, say this is the business case, I want to do a CDS view on this. If I don't know the answer, I will find it out, because I know the base. I know my foundation is strong on CDS view now, because I understand what is CDS view. I understand what is annotation. I understand how the keys are built. I understand joins. I understand projection. I understand association. So all these things I understand, the fundamental. So I can build it for you. Okay, so that's what you need to do. I did not taught you how to create end-to-end Fury apps. I taught you concepts of Fury, and now you guys in your company able to build Fury apps. Correct? Same thing applies here. I can only give you introduction. I can make your fundamental ready so that you can go and apply these concepts in your company. Okay, and if you cannot do it, give me the job support. I will do all the work for you. I will find out. I am good in finding out things, investigating things. I already know what CDS is, and I can do things on my own and find out the answers, because on Google everything is there on Google. I will simply go and find out the right answer, write annotations of course, and then we'll be able to. Because don't think that you are doing a unique thing in the world. You are not. There are people already doing things which you are also trying to achieve. Very, very common scenarios. This kind of scenarios where you want to replace a BW system, BAX reporting, or a BAX program with the CDS view. This is a very common scenario in industry, and you would find a lot of blogs about it. In fact, world has reached to even next level. We are still learning very basic things, so you will definitely find good examples on internet about it. What you need to know is CDS view, which I'm anyways covering in this course. Hope that answer your question. If it is very specific to your job, bring it on the table. I will do it for you. Okay, is it possible to make CDS view with optional parameters? No, it's not possible. All the CDS views parameters are mandatory. You have to pass their values. Okay, so that is what we typically do with CDS view parameters. Okay, let's move on now. So we saw adding a semantic annotation for end user text would bring a label for our column in ALV. But how can you now remove some of the columns from this ALV? Okay, now by now it would have crashed now, I think. Yeah. Okay, so we will see now how to do some more enhancements. So let me switch to SAP GUI itself. So I will switch to SAP GUI, and I'll just quickly open our report program over here and show you some stuff related to this. So let me close the program from ABAP on HANA system, our CDS view program. We saw the power of annotations. Let me activate the CDS once again and just put our program Z consume CDS1. So I don't have to switch between Eclipse and SAP GUI window, because whenever there is no support from Eclipse side, it launches a SAP GUI window. So better I directly use my SAP GUI window to do this program. So now what next I want is, I don't want these two columns to be displayed to the business user in the end result. So how can I restrict them using my integrated data access? So that should be pretty simple. We have to make use of um, a special field catalog which is generated automatically with the ALV, which is getting generated over here. And from the field catalog, get the list of all the available fields and delete the fields which you don't want. And then finally, again, set back the field catalog with the remaining fields. So that's what we need to do. Before that, let me split the code now to display this at the end. So I will say data, LOALV. I'm just creating inline data object for ALV. And now you see I'm just writing this over here. Is this okay? Let me save this and do a quick check if this code is fine. Now it's giving me an error, unable to interpret this. Okay, I forgot a dot. Yes, activate this and just execute it quickly, and then we will just remove the columns which it is building up from the CDS, and again set back the field catalog with updated columns. So you see now it's displaying the same data, but now what I want is I want to get the access of existing field catalog. So our first requirement is to case 1, where remove some columns from CDS or from output. Okay, how do you do this? So use this ALV object, and then there will be a field catalog object. So just do a control space, field catalog object. This is a field catalog object. I will get this field catalog object, and then I will say get available fields. This will give me an internal table of all the fields which are available in my output, and then I will get it into a local internal table. So let me just declare an inline table declaration, data LT fields, and then loop over the fields and remove the columns which I typically don't want. I can simply use delete my table name, where this is a single column table. So table line will be the default column name, contains pattern. Okay, contains pattern, and it contains a particular column name. So let's go back to CDS view, and in this CDS view we have two columns which we don't want. So one is buyer key is part of it, and another is sales order ID. So I will just use sales order. If it contains sales order and if it contains key, remove these two columns from it, and that becomes my final field catalog table. I will set this table back to the field catalog object, and then I will use again the same field catalog object, and I just say, hope you remember my Oops ABAP chapter where I taught you how to use returning parameter and a method called returns an object, and then on top you can call another method as a final result. This we also do it in JavaScript. This is called chaining concept in Oops programming. Okay, this is already covered in my Oops ABAP tutorials as well as in my JavaScript tutorial in SAP Fiori. Chaining concept in Oops. Now let's come here and set available fields method, and then we will pass back this latest available catalog which we prepared, removing two fields from the list of available fields in my output. So let's pass it over here, activate it, execute, and you will see now those two technical fields which were earlier appearing would disappear now. So let's go ahead and execute it, and let's see the final output. And oops, it's not, which means we got to now debug this. Why it's not removing the fields? It could be basically case sensitive. So maybe just let's debug what is the name of the field which is there in the system. So let me just see that. So it should now launch the debugger for us to get the list of fields which are there in the output field catalog. So LT fields, you see there are 6 fields. Let's go inside and see the available set of fields. So you see buyer key, so this is key, and then we have sales order ID. Why this condition is not working? Contains pattern key. It should have deleted ideally these two lines. No, it's not deleting from the table actually. You see LT fields is still having those 6 fields. So there is, so contains pattern actually works typically well. It doesn't matter. Okay, contains pattern. I have to, guys, I have to use a pattern. Like in ABAP, if you want to search if your program starts with A, what will you type in ABAP? Anybody? If you want to see if your report program starts with A, what do you do in ABAP? A star you write, right? So since I'm doing a contains pattern, then I have to put our pattern. So you can also put directly the column name. So sales order. So I will just say this one is pretty simple. So if it is key at the end, so I say star key. If it has star key, then delete it. And this one I can say if this is equals to sales order ID in capital. Okay, that's it. We are good. And now you should be able to see that it will remove the columns from the field catalog. We don't need to debug. I'm sure it will work. Execute it. Yes, we do have annotations also for hiding the field. That's possible. So right now you see I have done it with IDA. Now you can see it has been removed. It there has to be possibility to also remove or hide the field from the output using annotations. So let's try this. If this is possible, at the rate of end user or hide object model. I'm not sure. So there has to be some annotation. UI annotations dot element. Maybe we can just do a Google for the CDS annotation to hide element from output. There has to be possibility, and let's quickly check. Not able to find. Yes, there is one element level annotation. Let's see what is this. Consumption dot filter dot hidden. That's what they're saying. So let's try this at the rate of consumption. Yes. Dot filter and dot hidden equals to true. I'm putting these annotations before buyer GUID. Save this. Activate the CDS, and we will of course remove that condition which we have written in our ABAP program. Okay, so we will go and remove that condition from ABAP program. Otherwise our ABAP program comes into the play to hide that field. I don't want to now do that for this guy in ABAP program. So let me comment out this condition which was deleting the column manually from the field catalog. And let's try now. Activate this. So this should now not display the key field if our annotation is working correctly. Execute it. No, it's not working. You see it's still showing the column. There has to be some annotations, I guess. Maybe I will check that out and come back to you. But this one of course is not luckily working for us. Consumption dot filter. There has to be some at the rate of UI annotations, I guess. UI dot, let me just check if it is possible. UI dot target value trend, UI value format criticality, exclude field group dot exclude, position, qualifier, semantic object, URL, value, hidden. Yes, we have one called UI dot hidden equal to true. Let me try this one, guys. There's another annotation for UI specific. Let me activate this one. I'm still commenting this out, not doing anything. Let this activate it and now try and see this. No, still this one too not working in case of integrated data access. So in case of IDA, this is not working. But when you use this on Fiori app, guys, this annotation plays an important role. Okay, if you are consuming this UI in Fiori app, this will now hide this buyer key field from the Fiori app. I will show you that in upcoming chapter when we will use this annotation to consume the CDS in one of the Fiori app. That time this annotation will play an important role. Okay, now for IDA it's not happening, so let's go with the IDA technique itself to hide the column not based on annotations. Let's activate this, and now what I'm going to do is I will just show you the next thing. So suppose if I want to now enable a selection field, Okay, so I want to display selection criteria to the user. So allow business partner number to be passed or business partner name to be passed to filter the data. So how can we allow select options? So this was one of the question from you guys, how to enable search based on select criteria. So let's use business partner ID also as a field in output. So we are not using it currently. So I will use business partner or name probably in the output, the company name as a parameter, and I want it to be a range input. Okay, so let's create an input range. So this was one of the question you in one session somebody asked how to create a selection field, selection or select option for passing the values to filtered from the CDS. So now I'm creating one. For that, I need to quickly go and check the data type in the table for company names. So let me go to SC11 and search for SNWDBPA table, and in this find out the company name. Here it is. So it's part of this table, company name. We can use this. So let me create a select option now. So I use select hyphen options S company for SNWD underscore BPA table hyphen company name. Just directly use this, and of course I have to also declare this as my field string. That's a minimum bare minimum criteria over here, and this would lead to now creation of a select option. But how do you pump in this data to CDS? So CDS can filter the data based on this entered companies. Okay, so for that we have to now prepare our select option collector, and that collector would collect the range of values and finally pass these range of values to our CDS view. So let's do that. So I will come to input range collector. So let's create a collector object, LO collector equals to new SCL SALV range tab collector. So that's basically an object which will hold all the values of your select option. And now in this collector object, I will just add ranges for name. And in this we have to pass the name and values. So all my ranges values are coming from the select option variable. And what is that I want to filter? So here I have to now put my column name in CDS. So the column name is company name in capital. I have to put it. So company name, no underscore guys, no underscore. So it's company name. That's my alias name in CDS. And then this collector is prepared. So now what we need to do is get the ranges from this collector. So just call this method called get collector ranges. And this would give me the range of values into a table. That is basically my final select option data to be passed to the CDS for filtering the data. So LT name range, and then I will just pass this to my ALV object. Finally, ALV object will now only read this name ranges and then say set select option and pass your range input, a named range which you had created in IT ranges. That's it. We are good. And now let's test this. So you would see a select option on the UI where you can now enter the company names, and based on the company name what you pass, it will filter the data also for you. There's a syntax error. Let's see what's the error. SNWD BPA must be a flat structure. It's not allowing me guys to declare it as a field string. Okay, the reason is pretty simple, that this is not a flat structure. It has a string column actually. It has a string column inside, and you see here is a string column in this table. That's the reason we will not be able to use this BPA structure. So maybe we need to find another or create a new structure quickly for our purpose. So Z test BPA, create, and just creating for the purpose of business partner selection. And maybe I'm creating it as a table, guys, not a problem. You can also create it as a structure, doesn't matter. And I say company underscore name, make it as a primary key, and just get the type from BPA table. So if your database table has any string column, it will not allow you to use it directly in your select option. You have to probably create a structure on top of it and use that structure in your ABAP program. So just to avoid that situation, I'm just creating a empty structure and use this structure to create my select option. So use 0, save this, good, activate this table, and some warnings, that's okay. And now I can just use this structure to define my select option field. Do a check, we are good. You see it got resolved, and activate, and let's test it. We will now pass a range of company names, and it should now filter the data. Now remember, it's integrated data access with CDS view, so it does a code push down and only pulls the data for companies from the database table. Earlier this was done in application layer, pulling all the data and then applying a selection on the data in conventional ABAP technique. So let me choose company over here. Maybe I will just use one company just to show you the sales data for, let's say, Avental, and execute it. And you should now see the data only for Avental. You see all the sales data, invoices and sales amount for Avental company, only for that particular company. And the beauty is the moment I'm scrolling, it's firing database table query. The paging is done automatically with CDS view thanks to our integrated data access using ALV. So it won't pull all records from database. It will only pull on request. And at the first time it will only pull, let's say, 20 or 50 records, and when user does a scrolling in the ALV, it prepares the query and fire to the database automatically. Okay, so that's how you implement select option in with an ABAP program calling the CDS view using integrated data access. You can also now control the visibility of a field. So here you saw we have removed a field actually, but if you just want to make a field invisible, you can also do that. That should be also pretty simple. And you can also, anyways, we saw how to change the text with the help of annotation. Indeed, you can also change the text on the application program also. That should be pretty much possible. So what you can do is you can get the field object, and then from the field object you can change the text, header text of a particular column. So let me show you doing that. So again, I will use our ALV object, and then with this ALV object I will say get me the field catalog. Yes, field catalog object, and then from the field catalog object I will just say set field header text. So I'll just use set field header text, and then I can change also the header text of a field. If I want to just suppress whatever is coming from CDS annotation and I want to go give my own text for the header of the column, I can do that. So let me put the column name here, and the column name, of course, you will get it from CDS. It's sales amount, let's say. Remember guys, here I'm using the alias name what is written from CDS. This is the alias name you got to use. If you also observe, here also we use the alias name which is being sent by CDS. Okay, that's what you should use always. And then I will say here Anubhav. That should be my new label. Activate it, and now you will see on the application layer we have changed or suppressed whatever is coming from CDS. We have suppressed it, and that's what we will be using now. So let me just put SAP and execute, and we'll see the data from, and you see the label have changed to Anubhav over here. So that's how you can indeed also influence the label if you want to do it on the application layer without changing your CDS view annotation. Okay, sometimes it may be required. Now if I want to also disable some functions, so you see in this ALV there are a lot of different functions which are available. You want to disable those functions, so you see there are different functions here like submission, Excel export. These are all default ALV functions, so you can easily disable these functions like print function. or any other function you want to disable, or if you want to also disable a gross calculation. So if you come down at the bottom, it will calculate a gross amount. You can also disable sorting, searching, anything. If you want to disable, you can pretty much easily do that with the ALV object once again. So you can just come back, and then you can just disable any function of ALV, which is the default feature. So like this, we can also do this in conventional ALV, but just I'm teaching you with the new enhanced ALV how to disable these functions. So once again, just use ALV field catalog, and this is okay. Let me just write down comments. So this one is changing text on application layer, case 3, changing text in application layer. Then we have case 4, disable standard ALV functions. How to do that? So that should be pretty much possible. So you can just use this field catalog, and then you can say disable, and then you see there are functions like disable aggregation, disable sorting, disable filter. So I want to disable filter button. So I can just now say filter, and now I can put the field name on which the filter should be disabled. So nobody should be allowed to do a filter on sales amount, let's say. So I can say sales amount, and then when you run this, if user select the sales amount column and tries to do a filter on that, it will not allow. Let me show you some more features right away. We can also now set the title for our ALV. So ALV, and then we can use display option object, and then we can quickly go and say set title for the ALV, and I'll just pass here the title for my ALV, my first ALV with integrated data access. And then next I want to use maybe I want to change the sorting order. So by default I want to sort all the records based on my company name. Okay, so I can just do that. Default sorting, if you want to do based on certain columns, you can typically do that. So you can say this, and you say default layout object. This is the object which you can use to set or initialize your ALV with some default options. Okay, and then you can say um, set sort order method you can call, and then to control space, press enter, and now this would expect you to pass an internal table. This internal table should include the field name, and it should include also the sorting order, in what order you would like to sort the data. And it will also expect you, do you want to group the data? Yeah, so this is a very interesting option. I will show you now. So in this I will now pass an internal table. So we'll use the new syntax value hash to create an internal table right away over here. And then in this I will pass my columns, what columns I want to have it. So I will only pass one record, and then that record should contain all the columns. So first column is the field name, and field name is, let's say, my company name, and then I want is grouped equals to ABAP true, and then I want to say descending equals to ABAP false. I don't want to sort it in descending order. So that's the default layout. So we have done three things. We have disabled a filter option on the sales amount column. If I will try to do that, it won't allow me. We had set the title for the ALV, and then we had also made grouping enabled for my company name column. You will see now all the records will be grouped based on company name, and then also it will be sorted in ascending order by default. Let's save this and look at the response now. Got activated, and let's quickly execute with all the companies, and you will see now the records will be grouped. You see Aventel, all the records are grouping. Yeah, if I can just do collapse, you see all the grouping is nicely displayed over here. Yeah, beautiful. That's my ALV. And now I can also try to do a filter on the sales amount and apply the filter. It should not allow me. You see desired operation cannot be performed on this column. So that's what disabling of the filter on a particular column, how it works. The grouping we have done, and sorting also, you see all the data is sorted based on alphabetical order, ascending order based on company name. What a beautiful feature of integrated data access ALV. Okay. Now, what about if you want to disable some standard features itself? You want to completely remove your button, let's say your print button, you want to make it disable. Okay. How can you make it disable, this print button? Nobody should be able to print the data. That is also once again part of your standard functions of ALV. So you can say LO ALV, my ALV object, and then you can say set print active. That's the function you need to call. Come here and just call set method, and you see set, oops, yeah, sorry, it's part of standard function object. So that's my standard function object, and then you say set print active. This is what I will call, and I will say set print active to false. This would now disable my print button. There's a question here, can we do interactive ALV? Yes, it's possible. What you can do is you can register an event. I will show you in a minute what you can typically do with this. You can add a custom function. Okay, it's possible to add a custom function for ALV, and on click of that button you can actually take it to a different screen, or you can indeed open a pop-up also. Okay, I will show you that in a minute, how to add a custom function into ALV toolbar with this. Okay, so this is the set print active to disable the print button on the UI, and then I want to also disable itself the functionality. Some functionality I want to disable completely from the toolbar. So here this will make the button inactive. But what if you want to hide the button completely? You can do that also. Let me try hiding another button. We'll use one of the button of the toolbar which we will hide. So we will use toolbar object of this ALV, and we want to completely hide one of the button. So set visibility for standard function, and then you can now choose which button you want to hide it completely. Okay, so I want to hide, let's say, the sort button, the group button, the aggregation button, print button. We are already making it inactive, so I want to hide these many buttons. So let me just do an ABAP holds, this one, and this one. All three I want to hide it completely from the standard ALV feature. So let me do that. Activate this. Okay, let's execute it. So there's a question here that I wish you would have used oops ALV. See, oops ALV, you have to do lot of programming. You have to see tomorrow, today, if you're grouping this in oops ALV, how difficult it is. Okay, if you're filtering some data based on company, you can apply the filter directly over here. Okay, on a company name, if you want to filter the data, I can do that. How will you do it in oops ALV? You have to then write all your coding, right? You have to write the code to do this filtering. See here, this is an inbuilt feature of this ALV. If you do this filter without you writing any query, this works. You have not written a single select query over here. Can you achieve this in oops ALV without writing select query yourself? Please tell me, is this possible in your conventional ALV without writing any single select query? What will you do in ALV? How will you filter the data in ALV in your conventional oops ALV? Anyone? Is it possible without writing query in your conventional ALV? Not possible. It won't build the query, it won't understand. We are lucky to have IDA framework which building these queries automatically, sending it to the database, only pulling the required data from database based on the columns, based on what you fire, and then display that data to you on the UI. That's the power of IDA framework. Okay. Now you see, it has completely hidden those buttons. Okay, those buttons are completely hidden from the scope of toolbar. What about custom button? What if I want a custom button to be displayed on the UI? Now, just for your information, there is also this function called IV detail. Let me just enable this ABAP true, and also I will enable the print to ABAP true. Rest all I will not touch them, and activate. We should be able to see already the detail of selected record, I guess, into detail section. So let me just run this. We should see now a magnifying glass button, which is a kind of detail button. Oops, it's not coming. So of course, then I have to implement a custom button actually. Okay, so let's implement a custom button which would then do something for you when you click on that button. So how can you do that? Again, we have to use this toolbar object and ask this toolbar object to add a button inside. So that's what we will do, and say add a button. And now you can define this button and the details. So I say add button, and I will just put the function code for this, and I say detail screen. That's what Anshuman has asked me to do. So let's do that. And I just want to give some text to this guy. Of course, you can choose the icon from icons table in SAP system, and you can give a quick info, and then this should be displayed before any standard function. So this should be my first button on the ALV toolbar. So this button will be created, and I say display details. And of course, you can choose add an icon from icons table in SAP system. So just go to icons table in SAP system and choose an icon from here. Sorry, it's not icons, it's icon table in SAP, which will give you the list of all the icons available in SAP system. So this should be some new information for some of you. And you see these are all the list of icons and the names of their icons. So maybe I want this one, this guy here, icon display note. So let's use this one, or icon display text I would use. Copy this icon name, come back and put it over here in single quotes. Just we are ready, save this, and you would see now a custom button being displayed in the ALV toolbar on the UI for you to take you to the new screen. So let me execute this. So what we will do now is we will just look at this ALV on this screen, and let's execute this. So here we will see now the ALV with all the data being displayed on the UI. And now you see your display details button is being visible on the UI. So what we will do next is we will select a record, and then we will click on this button, and that should now take me to a completely different screen. That's something possible. But you see right now, selection of a record is not possible. So how to enable selection of a record in this ALV now? So let's go back and enable single selection. You can indeed also enable multi-selection. So first of all, let's use this ALV object and enable single selection of a record in this ALV table. So use this ALV object, selection object, and then we will just enable the set selection mode. Okay, so set selection mode API you can call, and just pass here the selection mode in the table. So selection mode is once again a ready-made constant available in one of the interface of ALV, IF ALV GUI selection underscore IDA interface, and there's a constant available for selection mode. Yes, here it is. And now you can choose out of multiple variety of selection modes. We'll use single selection over here. Save this. You would see now that small tiny selection icon or a selector will be coming before every record. But now the main thing is implementing an event handler for clicking on the button. When somebody clicks on the button, what should happen? So let's set the event handler. So I'll call a subroutine. Sorry, set event handler, and then we will implement this subroutine with some functionality. So I'll just double click and implement this in a reusable module. So let's do that. So I will implement this subroutine in the same program. So let's do that here itself. And now in this, we will write all the code to handle that event. Anybody, which concept do you use to implement event handling for a ALV custom button? Anyone? With your oops ALV, which concept do you use? Anybody? Which concept do you use to implement functionality for your oops ALV? Any custom button? Nobody remembers? We use local class concept. So let's create a local class local event handler class, definition, create private, and then let's create a public section in this class, and let's define a static method in the class and say toolbar selected. So this is an event handler method which will trigger when you click on that button on event for event function selected event. Why my charger is not working? 1 second, guys. Just let me check. Otherwise, my laptop will switch off. Okay, fine. So function selected is a default event of our ALV interface selection IDA ALV GUI toolbar. So this is a default event which is there. Anytime you click on the button, this is the event which will get called. Okay. So toolbar IDA. This is an event importing function code. So what button user has clicked on, that will be called in this. Now we have protected section which is empty. We have a private section of this class which is also empty, and end the class definition. So end the class definition, and let's implement the implementation of the class. So class name and its implementation, and we will now implement the implementation of this class. So let's put method, and then of course method, and I will write its implementation. This is the method which we have, and then we will put all the implementation in this and method. And let me right now just put a breakpoint to show you that what will happen when you click on the toolbar button, this particular event will be triggered. Okay, now it's important that you set the event handler. Without setting the event handler, it will not trigger anything. Okay, so we will do that also in another subroutine. So this class implementation, you should do it probably outside. After your display method, you can do it directly, and then in the event handler you will call, sorry, I did a mistake. I didn't copy the full class implementation as a local class implementation at the end of the program. And then in set event handler, just say set handler for your local class name and its static method. This is what oops ALV does, guys. Same concept here. ALV object, and then we have an event called toolbar. So whenever there is a button on the toolbar pressed, this is the method which gets called. Okay, that's the setting of event handler. And now you will see the moment I press that button, guys, it will hit this particular breakpoint. Let's activate this and watch carefully what happens when you hit that button. Oops, syntax error. Go for edit. What's the problem? Method, this is the method. Okay, formal parameter, this does not exist. Of course, you have to do an importing of that formal parameter. So what was the parameter name we have put? It's FC code. So that's, you have to put it. Where shall we put? Why it's not allowing me? Formal parameter, this does not exist. Okay, I think the parameter name is not FC code, guys. It's EVF code. That's a default parameter name. Save this. Do a check. Yes, looks good. Activate it. Execute it. And now execute once again. You will see a selection mode being available, single selection. You can see now I am able to select one single record at a time, and I can click on the button. It should hit my breakpoint. Let's click, and voila, you see it's going to hit my breakpoint, where now you can write your code to take user to a completely different screen. So hope that is something which you can easily achieve. So you can see here it has come to this method, and here you can write call screen, a screen number where you want to take it to the user. You can indeed also write the selected record data in the final result. Of course, you will also have the scope available for your selected record. EVF code, if you compare EVF code, you will get what was pressed by user. So there may be multiple toolbar buttons. So you want to do specific programming for specific button click, because any button click will bring it to you this method. Any button click will bring to you this method. But here now you have to do specific programming. What happens when a user press detail screen? What happens when user press print? What happens when you user press aggregation? So that's the coding you will write in a case statement. And now the question is, how do you get the selected record from ALV? So maybe I will show you that too as well, just to show you an interactive ALV which Anshuman has asked. So let me just now put a case statement and just check this EVF code. And if it is detail screen, so that was my function code. If this is my detail screen, then what shall I do on detail screen? So first I need to get the selected record. So I'll say if ALV object, which is my global object of ALV, selection, what was selected from the ALV, and was there any row selected from ALV or not. So you can use is selection, is row selected, and that will give you boolean value to tell if the row was selected by user or not. So if it is ABAP true, which means user has selected at least one row from the table, I will again call the selection object and get that selected record values. Okay, so get selected row, get me the selected row value, whatever was selected by user, into probably a structure. So ES row will be a structure. So I will declare this LS row, and this row type will be exactly the type of your uh, CDS entity name. Okay, because that's what you are displaying to the user. So type your CDS entity name, which is here. Let's copy this. Okay, this one, this is the type of your row. You will finally get your record which was selected by user in this, and I just want to display it in probably a pop-up. Okay, so we can call another CLSALV GUI table IDA, sorry, CLSALV IDA show data row. I just want to display one single row. I use this API in NetWeaver 7.4 to display an ALV data in a row, and I will just pump in my row to it. That's it. Pass my data. That's it. This will become an interactive ALV. You can select a record, click on the button, and that will display that particular data into a pop-up for you. Okay. Now only methods are defined in this. Okay, sorry. I have to put my data declaration inside the method, not outside the method. That was the mistake. Activate it and execute it. And let's come back, execute again. So if you simply click on the button, it won't do anything because you have to select a record first. You see, when I click, it doesn't do anything. I have to select a record. I choose a record now and do a display, and voila, you see that particular record is getting displayed to me. Is that what you wanted, Anshuman? An interactive ALV. You select a record in ALV and that displays into a completely different tab or different screen. You can of course now do it your conventional dialog programming and take user to completely different screen with a screen number and do design whatever you like to do. Okay, that's completely possible thanks to integrated data access with ALV. Wow, what an amazing concept. So hopefully we saw all the concepts related to this. And of course, now if you imply your role concept with this guy, with this CDS viewer DCL, and accordingly your ALV will start behaving because you're imposing your data constraint at the CDS level. So ALV also cannot show that data to the user until user has the right authorization to access the data. Correct? So that's what you can now do it with the help of integrated data access. So I have showed you all the possible major possible options with ALV IDA. Okay, majorly what trainers does, even in fact I've seen OpenSAP tutorial for integrated data access with ALV. What they will only teach is this one statement which I showed you at the beginning, this guy. This is what tutorials trainers are giving. They will only teach you this and they will say that's what integrated data access with ALV works. Okay, I've seen indeed these kind of tutorials on internet. This is what IDA ALV means for majority of them. Okay, please upload this code also. I will do that. Let me take this code into a notepad would be very helpful for you. And let me save this on my desktop, and I say ALV with IDA. In fact, I will also upload the CDS view corresponding to this, where we had created one annotation for end user label. I'll take this CDS view for here, and I'll also save this, say ZCO Bupa sales for ALV. I will upload that. In fact, I uploaded also all the code what we have done till date into a project. Okay, now the moment for all we have been waiting for, moving into advanced modeling concept with respect to SAP S4HANA with latest and greatest available annotations in the system. Okay, yesterday's Fiori app was not displaying association. It was it was not. Maybe we'll see it now in these latest CDS views, which we will create using S4 related annotations. So let's get started with S4 HANA related CDS views. How can we create CDS views in S4 HANA with latest and greatest annotations? Some of the major annotations you will learn it over here. We will also learn about text views. Basically, if you have to join a text table, like we saw, there was a table for product, and the product description was in a text table with the language key. And how can you now join these two together with the help of CDS? We will see that concept also. So let's get started. I will switch back to once again my PPT. Okay, item data did not load. No problem. We will do that now in this example when we will build S4 HANA productive views. Okay, we'll see these examples, and we'll see how to load associated data also. In fact, you can do it with your Fiori knowledge quite easily. It won't matter. Okay, great. Let's come here. So what we have it in this model, once again, a product, a business partner. So I'm going to create a CDS view of this business partner. And then of course, for product, I will also have a product texts table in which all my product texts will be present, and there will be a text join between them. If you remember, in our attribute view, we learned about a text join at HANA level. How can you realize that kind of join at the CDS levels? That's what we will be doing it. A join between product and product text. So this is going to be one CDS. This is going to be another CDS. Business partner is going to be another CDS view. And all these three views are called your basic views in S4. So you see any dimension when you're putting, that's your basic view, an interface view or a basic view. When you go to the next level, you will consume or you will include a fact table along with your interface views. That becomes your composite view, also called cube data category, because that is joining a fact table with a dimension. That's called cube data category. Okay, or star join, correct, if you remember our previous concept. And then finally the data, the data model, which is consumed by your analytical tools, which is consumed by your Fiori app, which is consumed by your O data services, which is consumed by your BW tools, your analytical query tools. Or in S4 we have an analytical Fiori app called analytical query app. That's what also hit your consumption view. So this is the view which your reporting tools or analytical tools will hit to consumption view, which you expose to the business user. So we will step by step, we'll go and look at these uh, different annotations available in S4 to create these different variety of views by considering once again our EPM data model concept. So let's start with basic views, interface views, where we will now expose our product data as well as we will expose our business partner data using basic interface views. So first I will create our business partner basic interface view, our first dimension. So I'll say example one, create basic view for business partner. Just to inform you guys, we will not be able to complete our course today. We will complete our course next weekend, Saturday. So next weekend we just have one class, and in that class I will complete our course finally after 50 hours. So initial plan was to finish it on 40 hours, but I could not restrict myself for some concepts. And of course, this was my first batch, so I also little found difficult with you for the first time explaining some of the things. Many times our output did not work, and it got extended little bit. So hopefully we will be able to complete our course in the next session by building finally a Fiori app on top of these views. Okay. No, next Sunday we will not have it. Next Sunday I'm starting a new batch on ABAP on HANA. So if your colleagues, your friends are interested, inform that I am starting a new batch on ABAP on HANA on next Sunday onwards, which is 14th of January. 13th January will be our last date for the course. So let's create our basic CDS view for S4 HANA, which is also an interface view for business partner. So you will see now some new annotations with regard to that. S4 HANA, I am preparing still. Uh, there are too many things I'm learning these days. One is especially HANA Access with Access Advanced and Node.js programming. That would also bring in the HANA CDS concept. Another thing in parallel, I'm preparing for SAP S4 HANA, how to learn SAP, do things in S4 HANA, which is actually an amalgamation. It's a combination of both ABAP on HANA and Fiori. Okay, that's what your S4 HANA is, because people who want to learn S4, they need to basically work in conjunction with CDS, ABAP, all the ABAP on HANA concept plus your Fiori concept related to Launchpad. That's what typically becomes S4. So if you have already taken my both courses, Fiori and ABAP on HANA, you are already eligible for S4. Go for any S4 project. Don't feel alone. You will definitely be able to do things what you're supposed to do as a developer in S4 projects. So don't worry about it. ML IoT is still far story. I stopped my ML learning because of too many things on in parallel. So I already have a lot of commitments. So IoT and ML and SAP mobile platform and hybrid application toolkit, all four courses are on hold right now. Okay, let's move on. Let's create our first basic interface view in S4 for business partner. How do you do it when you are in S4 system? Okay, how do you do it in S4? Let's go ahead and do this. I will answer that question till towards the end of the class. Otherwise, if I start answering it, our server will go down. We just left with 15 minutes and my server is already set to 2 hours today. So let's create our first coded service view for S4. Let's create a new definition and I will say Z CDS underscore I interface view for business partner. And I just say business partner basic view. You can call it as an interface view, or you can call it as a dimension because you're going to hit your master data table. So that's the description I will write. And imagine you are now in a S4 project and you've been asked to develop views. Okay, sorry, it generated the wrong template. I got to kill this guy, or maybe we can just change it directly over here with annotations. So first annotation which comes is ABAP catalog.sql view name, and ABAP catalog.sql, sorry, spelling it's case sensitive guys. So ABAP catalog.sql view name. Okay, sorry. Since I've used the template as CDS table function, it is not showing me the annotations required for required to create a CDS view. Let me just quickly delete this guy so that we will be able to build the one with the proper template. So I delete this CDS Bupa interface view, delete it, and I will probably use next and choose the basic view template. So at least these basic annotations would be coming up to me. So let me just redefine that quickly. So it's taking a little bit of time to delete. So say new ZCDS Bupa once again. It's a business partner interface view dimension. Next, I don't want to give a transport request, neither a package. Say next and choose define a view and say finish. And now you would see your SQL view name annotations would come automatically. And you just use this, remove the I with V. That will be my view name. Remember the 16 character is the limitation, 26 character is the limitation for your entity name. I don't want to do any compare or filter, so I'll remove this. And I don't want to also do an authorization check, so I will say not required at the moment. We also have an end user text that will be the text used for auditor service when we create an auditor service out of this view. Now moving on to the first annotation required for S4 HANA, it's called VDM, virtual data model. In S4 concept, we have a concept of virtual data model where we specify what this view is used for. Is this view used for analytics? is this view is a composite view, or is this going to be exposing a master data? So in this case we are exposing master data, so the VDM view type category is going to be basic. So you see now S4 categories over here: basic, composite, and consumption views. So that's the first annotation with respect to S4 to define that what is the virtual data model is of type. It's a basic view. The second is what will be the whether this view can be consumed by analytical tools or not. So there's another annotation called analytics dot data extraction, and then inside this you can enable data extraction to true, which means this particular view which you have created will be accessible by analytical tools in S4 or even your BW on HANA when you're creating. So this was one question you asked: what shall I do when you are working on BW on HANA, BW ABAP system which is running on S4 or which is running on HANA database, and you've been asked to develop a view. This is an important annotation which you should use: enable data extraction, enable true, so that your BW tools can use the CDS view to extract the data out. Very important annotation from the BW point of view. Okay, so let's define the view now. Inside this, the data source is going to be SNWD underscore business partner table, BPA table, as BPA, and I'm going to join this table with business partner address. Okay, so let's define a join using association of one, and then I'm going to put my address table 2, and my address table is SNWD underscore AD table as underscore address. Okay, you remember this is how you define the association name in S4 when you're defining a CDS view. Now we have to define the on condition, dollar projection dot, here you got to bring the field name and then address, join with the address table. And of course, since I don't have right now the field names listed in the view parenthesis, it will not display me the fields and won't allow me to also do a join. So let's quickly add the field names. So I use my BPA table dot node key as a primary key for this view, and I just use it as my key. So let me define it as a business partner ID as an alias name. Okay, business partner key as a technical key for this, and then I will also use bpa.bp underscore id as business partner id. Okay, next column we will use the address GUID from the BPA table, and you see code completion is truly helping me here. Address ID, and this is what now I'm exposing. So in projection I will use address ID over here. So this address ID joins with my association, address is my association, and then I have a node key in this table which it is connecting. So business partner table with their addresses gets connected here with this join condition, and that's my association name. Superb. Now moving next, we will also just quickly expose the company name, bpa.company name as company name. Now remember guys, in S4 typically when we creating any CDS view, we always give alias names for the perspective of consumer. So tomorrow I'm going to use this into with the fact table in a composite view joining with sales order data. So that point of time, these alias names makes it pretty easy for me to know which column is for what purpose. And now it's time for expose association. So I will just put underscore and my association address. Now the beauty of CDS view guys, if you are just selecting, let's say, business partner ID field, now do you need to evaluate this join to just get the business partner data or business partner key or business partner ID or company name or this GUID? All these fields are present in your first table. Do you need to do this join at all? Do the database need to do evaluate the join if you're just getting the company name? Suppose I write a select query, select company name from this view. What will happen behind the scenes? System will not at all consider this join at all. That's the performance boost you will get when you use CDS view. System is so smart. HANA understand it so well that it won't even evaluate the join. Okay, it will prune the join. Okay, it will prune the join. It will say user just want company name, user don't want any address data, why should I evaluate this join? Okay, so it won't evaluate the join until or unless you read a field from the address association, because reading a field from address association, then it becomes mandatory to get corresponding address data, and then it will evaluates the join, otherwise it won't. Save this. We are ready with our first basic view, which is reading analytical data. You can also put here other annotations, like for example, um, I want to just say this is going to be a simple text data. It's going to be attribute. It is not a measure. So if you remember the concept of attribute and measure, I want to mark this property as a typical attribute, not as a measure. So I can use at the rate of semantics dot text equals to true annotation. That will mark this particular property as an attribute, not as a measure. And also we can just put end user text like we did it today to display a label for our ALV, and I can say this is going to be company space name. That's going to be used in analytical tools. When you consume this column, this label will be printed in the table or in the chart or in the legend when you consume this guy into an analytical query or in a table or in a Fury app. Save this. We are good. There's also another important property. Which is, do you think, which property out of these property would technically represent a key for this view? Of course, this business partner key that represents technically the primary key for the data record, which we'll pull from this CDS. So we can define that as a key using object model representative key annotation. So you can say object model representative key, and you can put this alias name business partner key is going to be one significant property or the column which identifies every single record. Very important property. Save this. We are good. Let's activate. We can also test the association now with our first basic view. Congratulations, first dimension view of type basic interface view in SAP S4HANA you've created with the required annotation would also help you to build a view for your BW tools. Okay, execute it. We're good. You can see the data. I can right click on address and follow the association to get the address data, and the moment you do it, you see this customer belongs to Germany country, and the address also being pulled up. That's what the power of association is. Okay, hope you understood all the important annotations with respect to S4 HANA and BW tools. Let's move on to the next dimension. I'm now going to create a view on product data. So we will be defining a join between the product table and product text table. So first of all, let's create a basic view on the text table of the product. Right click, create a new view, and once again I will just name it as ZCDS. Same naming convention will follow. CDS underscore I underscore product texts. Product texts. It's going to be a text view. Okay, it's going to be of category basic interface view in S4 of type text. Of course, category should be the text view, and then yeah, that's what will be again using my master data. So it's going to be a dimension for me. Next, we can indeed do a finish. It will create the basic template for your view, and I just give the view name. Just define 16 character is the length, so you can just use here ZCDS VPRD texts. Okay, that's the S11 view name. Once again, I would just say I don't want to do any authorization checks, so not required. Compare filter, remove it, and we are good. And now let's first write an annotation which indicates that it's going to be a text. So at the rate of object model dot data category, and then control space, and you see data category is text category because it's going to expose the text data for products. At the same time, you can also identify the semantic key after putting it here. So let me quickly put the key. So we will have a node key as a primary key for this view. We are also going to expose the language column, the parent key column, and finally the text column. So the table name is snwd underscore text table, which has all the product texts. So first is the key field, which is node key as let's say node key and then we have parent key, which will be indicating as a primary key, but before that key has to be also your language field. Yes, as language, and then maybe, yeah, fine, language, and then we will say parent key, which is the joining condition with the product table, guys. So parent key as product ID, sorry, and then we have uh, finally the text, which is the product text. And then I will use an annotation here called end user text label. This is going to be my product text or product name. Actual product name will be represented using this text of the product, which is language dependent. Since we have marked here data category as text, it becomes language dependent. Very important. Now at the same time, I want to define these two as my keys, and I also want to tell that these two together becomes my semantic key for this. So again, object model, and I will do a little change here. Object model, and then this one array, sorry, object model, and then we'll use curly braces, and first is data category property, and data category is control space text type. Then I will also put the next property, which is my semantic key. So semantic key, and I can define multiple keys. Basically in this case I have two keys. One is my node key and one is my language field. So both I have to define. Of course the alias names you have to put it in this JSON format of array. So let's do that. So this is how you define a text table, expose a text table from CDS view. Let's go ahead and mark an analytical category that this should be possible again to um, expose in analytics. Somebody can use this data extraction, analytics data extraction enabled equals to true. I'm marking that somebody can use this particular view in analytics tools in BW also. And then of course finally the S4HANA related VDM view type, once again it's of type basic view. Okay, so these are all the annotations we have it for text. We are good. Let's save this and activate and execute and test quickly if it's giving me the data. So that's my basic view once again with product text. Execute it and you will see all the product texts are visible for all the languages will be visible over here. Okay, great. So let's move on to the next view. I will build now a view on top of this. This view will be joined with my product view, and then we will be extracting the information about product ID as well as the node key and the final text of the product. Let's create another interface view for the product. So Z CDS interface view products. So products master data. It's a basic interface view and it's a dimension because it's on master data. Click on finish. And now I'm going to join both the tables, product table and the text table together, and also mark the most significant key field for this particular view, like we did it here. The most significant semantic key for this particular view, we have marked it here. So similarly, we're going to join them. At the same time, my product will join with the supplier data because every product has a supplier. So let's define the product view with an association with the business partner CDS view which we created, and also with the product text. So we will define now two association, one with the business partner and one with product. So once again, compare filter, remove it. Check is not required at the moment. And then of course this ZCDS view products, we can put any name. SNWD underscore PD is my product view as products. Okay, and then of course let's quickly select the fields from here. So first is key is node key as product key. Then I can also use products alias name dot, and I can use product category as category products dot, and I'll use product ID, and then products dot supplier GUID, hopefully yes, as supplier ID, and products dot text GUID, or I think description GUID is the field which is going to join as description ID, and then products dot, once again you can do control space, very nice feature, CDS price of the product price, and finally products dot currency code as currency. Save this, we are done, and let's quickly do a check. Activate this. Right now very basic product data, but of course we're going to do a data preview quickly, and now going to join this because I want an association with who is supplying this product to me and what is the name of the product from the text table. That's the join we're going to do here. So let's define the join using association. So association of one, I'm going to join first my product text table. So to my product text CDS view, and it's ZCDS I prod text, ZCDS I prod control space, and here it is. And this is going to be joining based on join condition. So we have description GUID from the product table going to join with the node key of it. So let's give a name, say product texts. This is how S4HANA is built, guys. S4HANA CDS views on what join condition, $projection dot, and I just get now description ID of this, which is going to join with my product text, association name dot its semantic key, which is node key, very good, and then association once again with my supplier data, who is supplying this product to me. Once again, the CDS view, ZCDS interface, supplier view is Bupa as underscore supplier on $projection dot supplier ID, and here it is from my projection equals to underscore supplier is my association dot, the primary key from that is business partner key. We are good. Association is also done. Let's expose these associations out. So just put comma. Of course, we're going to add this annotations related to S4 and our analytical tools quickly in a minute. But before that, just wanted to test it. Both the association works fine or not. Save this, activate it before our server goes down. And we will quickly look at the response. Right click on supplier ID, follow the associations for supplier. And this is the supplier of this product. Go back, right click on the product description ID, follow the association, go to the text, and oops, I don't see it. Why? Anyone? Can you guess what's the reason? Why am I not able to read the data for the text of the product based on product description GUID? Anybody? What do you think? Why am I not able to do it? What do you think? Why am I not able to read it? What is the key for product text table? Anybody? What is the key for product text table? It's language plus node key. So here you are just passing the product ID, but you're not passing the language. Okay, so you also have to pass the language. Very important point, guys. Without you passing the language, it will not be able to read the text. So your association changes here. It has to be dot dot star, which means I want to now get all the records based on description GUID, because I'm not right now uh, supplying you the exact uh, language key to you. Of course, you can hard code the language key later point of time, but I want to say one dot dot star, which means now get me all the records right now, whatever is available to you into it. Okay, that's the join I'm doing, left outer join, and now just activate it once again to just show you the following of association. Execute description ID, follow association, show me the texts. Still it is not, there is some problem. I think we're messing something up. Description ID, but I didn't put the language. I think it's 0 star or something. No, 0 star is not, it's 0 1 typically for left outer join. For right outer join it should be 1.00, I guess. That's a right outer join. No, it's not supporting this. I think we're missing something. Let me put 1. Ideally it should have worked. Okay, no problem. We will supply the language key. So we can say dot dot. Okay, I cannot do that over here. Maybe what we will do is right now we will hard code it and dollar your association name project text dot language equals to your language field value. So I will right now hard code this value to E, guys. Okay, so let me just do it to E, and we should be able to now get the value for product texts also. Execute, right click, follow association. So I will show you in the super view how will you pass this language field dynamically. Okay, this is not working. There is some problem in our view. There is some problem why it's not able to now get me the product text data. Okay, I need to cross check this, why it's not working. Ideally it should have worked. Since now we are passing the language field value also to it as a semantic key, it should have worked. But maybe I will check this why it's not working. So we will end the session here. Server is already down. I'm not able to work with the server anymore. In the next session we will look at this solution of this problem of a text join, how to pass the data and get the associated texts from the product text view when you're following association from the product view. That's what we'll be looking in our next unit. There's a question here: can we implement association technique in ALV in HANA? Which ALV in HANA are you talking about? Are you talking about HANA Studio data preview? Is that what you're talking? The one data preview which we saw in SAP HANA Studio when we do a select over there. ALV IDA. Yes, it should be possible. I never tried it, Anshuman. It should be possible. Association can be implemented there because the beauty is when you expose the CDS, you are actually exposing an entity. And whatever possible with entity is all possible with consumer of the entity. Okay, it's possible, but never tried it. You got to try out some tutorial from internet. Okay. Great. So we will close our session over here. Of course, we got to add some more annotations to this particular basic interface view for our product dimension, which is then gets completed. And of course, also to solve this problem related to language. In the next unit, we will complete the data model with CDS interface views, composite views, and consumption views, and then finally also consume it in a Fiori app. And there's one little tiny topic called fuzzy search, which is pending. I will show you just enabling search help with the fuzzy search in ABAP on HANA. And with that, we will be able to close our ABAP on HANA course on next week. Thank you so much. See you on the next weekend. Have a nice day and goodbye.